Elvis Presley. The name itself is a showstopper. It makes you think of bright lights and screaming crowds, of fancy jumpsuits, and a whole lot of swagger. He was the king, right? Larger than life, untouchable almost. He seemed to have it all. He had the voice, he had the looks. Millions loved him. He changed music, he changed culture. But even kings have their quiet moments. Even icons have their shadows. We tend to put people like Elvis on a pedestal. We forget they're just people. And people, even the most famous ones, carry things. They carry their pasts, they carry their hurts, and sometimes they carry fears. There are fears that started a long, long time ago, back when they were just kids. It's easy to imagine Elvis as this fearless guy. He took risks, he broke rules, he performed with a raw energy that must have felt like pure confidence. But then you hear some of his songs, and sometimes, buried in the melody or right there in the lyrics, you get a glimpse of something else. Something much more fragile, something very human. There's a song he did, a surprisingly dark one. It stands out from a lot of his upbeat stuff. It's not about love gone wrong in a typical way. It's not about partying, it's about a feeling. A deep, unsettling feeling. And in that song, he lets his guard down. He talks about a fear. A fear that most of us can probably relate to. A fear that probably started when he was just a little boy. Think about being a kid. The world is huge. It's exciting, but it can also be scary. Simple things can feel enormous. A shadow on the wall, a strange sound in the night. The thought of being left alone. These things can stick with you. They can burrow deep. They can become these quiet little worries that sit in the back of your mind, even when you're all grown up. And for Elvis, in this particular song, he really lays it out. He sings about the dark. He sings about a world of shadows, and he sings about being alone. Not just physically alone in a room, but a deeper kind of alone. A feeling that grips you, a sense of isolation. That feeling that no one is there. That there's just emptiness. This isn't just a simple fear of the dark. It's more than that. It's the fear of being alone in the dark. It's the absence of comfort. The absence of another person. The absence of light, both literally and figuratively. It's a very primal fear. Babies cry when they are left alone. Small children often fear separation from their parents. It's built into us, this need for connection, this need for safety in numbers. And for a child, the dark amplifies that feeling. When the lights go out, everything changes. Shapes become indistinct. Familiar objects look strange. Sounds become louder, more menacing. And if you're alone in that space, it can feel like you're the only person left in the world. The walls seem to stretch. The air feels heavy. Your own imagination can become your worst enemy, conjuring up all sorts of things that aren't there. Elvis grew up in some pretty tough times. He was born into poverty in Tupelo, Mississippi. His home wasn't always a secure place. It was often a struggle. And he had a twin brother, Jesse Garon, who was stillborn. Right from the start, there was a shadow, the sense of loss. A part of him was missing before he even fully understood what it meant. This kind of early experience, a deep loss so close to his own birth, can shape a person. It can create a sensitivity, a feeling that things can be taken away, that even the closest bonds can be broken. And what's more alone than being born with a twin, only for that twin to be gone? It leaves an empty space, a silent echo. His mother, Gladys, was everything to him. They had an incredibly close bond, almost famously close. She was his rock, his comfort, his protector, and she gave him a sense of safety that might have been hard to find elsewhere in his early life. She was the one who chased away the shadows, the one who made sure he wasn't truly alone. And when you have that kind of central figure in your life, someone who represents all your security, the thought of them not being there can be terrifying. For a child, that fear of separation from the primary caregiver, the fear of abandonment, can be overwhelming. It can feel like the end of everything, like being cast out into a cold, empty world. So when you think about Elvis singing about this fear of being alone, it makes sense. It ties back to those early days, the vulnerability of childhood, the loss of his brother, the intense bond with his mother, the ever-present struggle of being poor, which can itself be isolating, a sense of being apart, different. It's a universal feeling, really. Everyone has felt alone at some point, even in a crowded room. But for some people, it's more than a passing feeling. It's a deep-seated dread, a phobia almost, the thought of true isolation, of being forgotten, of fading into nothingness. It's a very human, very raw emotion, and this song, it pulls back the curtain on that. It shows us Elvis not as the king, but as a person grappling with a fear that probably started in a small, dimly lit room somewhere in Mississippi. A fear that might have whispered to him when he was tucked into bed and the house grew quiet and the only sounds were the crickets outside. He sings about how this fear tears him apart. That's a strong phrase. It's not just makes me sad or makes me uncomfortable. It's tears me apart. It implies a deep, visceral pain, a tearing at the very fabric of his being. This isn't a casual worry. This is a fundamental terror, a core anxiety. Imagine being a child again. It's night. You're in your bed. The house is dark. Your parents are asleep. And you hear a noise. Or maybe you don't hear anything, and that's even worse. The silence stretches, and you feel very, very small, very insignificant, and very, very alone. Your heart pounds. You pull the covers up tight. You might even squeeze your eyes shut as if that will make the darkness go away. That feeling, that intense, overwhelming sense of solitary vulnerability is what this song touches on. It's not just the physical darkness, but the metaphorical one too. The darkness of the unknown. The darkness of what might happen if you truly are left by yourself. The darkness of a future without connection. And for Elvis, a man who lived his life in the spotlight, this fear takes on another layer. He was surrounded by people constantly. He had an entourage, he had fans, he had family. But fame can be a strange, isolating thing. The more famous you get, the more people project onto you. They see an image, not always the person. And that can make you feel even more alone, even more separated from real human connection. He could be on stage in front of tens of thousands and still feel a profound sense of isolation. Because those cheers, that adoration, it's for Elvis. It's for the persona. It's for the legend. But what about the man inside? What about the vulnerable boy who feared being alone in the dark? Did those crowds truly fill that void? Or did they, in a strange way, emphasize it by showing him how many people there were and how few truly knew him? This song comes from a later period in his career, a time when he had already achieved immense fame. He had seen the highs, he had probably felt the lows, and yet this deep-seated fear was still there. It hadn't gone away with the money or the success or the adoration. It was still a part of him, a lingering ghost from his childhood. It's a testament to how deeply fears can root themselves. They don't just disappear because you grow up. They don't vanish because you become famous or rich. They can evolve. They can change shape. But the core feeling remains. The vulnerability. The dread. When you think about the pressure Elvis was under, the constant demands, the lack of privacy, it's easy to see how a fear of being alone could paradoxically become a fear of not being alone in the way that matters. He needed connection, real, human connection, not just adulation, and maybe he struggled to find it. Maybe the very nature of his fame pushed it further away. The song paints a picture of a soul feeling adrift, lost in a world that feels vast and empty. It talks about shadows, it talks about a lonely night. These aren't just poetic phrases, they feel like direct windows into a very real emotional state. A state where the world can feel menacing when you don't have someone to share it with, someone to ground you. And it's a powerful reminder that everyone, no matter how strong or confident they appear, has their moments of fear. Their moments of vulnerability, their personal demons. And for Elvis, one of those demons was the quiet, gnawing terror of being utterly, completely alone. Of facing the darkness without a hand to hold. He sings these words with a kind of raw honesty that cuts through the usual showmanship. It's not the playful Elvis, it's not the romantic Elvis, it's a much more introspective, almost troubled Elvis. He's laying his soul bare, he's telling us something profoundly personal, something that probably haunted him for years. This song isn't just a sad song, it's a confession, it's a moment of truth. It's Elvis telling us, yes, I am the king, but I also get scared. And this is what scares me most of all. It gives us a different perspective on him. It humanizes him in a way that the bright lights and the loud music sometimes couldn't. It reminds us that our childhood experiences, especially our fears, are powerful. They leave imprints. They shape who we become, and even when we're adults and we're supposedly strong and capable, those old fears can resurface. They can catch us off guard, they can remind us of that small, vulnerable child we once were. And the fear of being alone is a particularly heavy one. It touches on fundamental human needs, the need for belonging, for love, for connection. When that need is threatened, either in childhood or later in life, it can create a profound sense of unease. A feeling that the ground beneath you isn't stable, that you could fall into an abyss at any moment. Think about the sheer scale of Elvis's life, the constant travel, the hotels, the changing faces around him. It might seem like he was never truly alone, but being surrounded by people doesn't necessarily mean you feel connected. In fact, it can sometimes make the feeling of isolation even stronger, like you're a performer, always on, always giving, but never truly receiving the kind of deep, meaningful interaction that nourishes the soul. He had a close circle, yes, but even they were often part of the machinery, part of the Elvis world, and that world, for all its glamour, could be a very lonely place at the top. The higher you climb, the fewer people there are who truly understand your experience. The fewer people you can truly confide in. The fewer people who see you, really see you beyond the legend. So this song isn't just about a childhood fear, it's about how that fear stayed with him. How it morphed and adapted to his adult life. How it found expression even amidst the roar of his success. It's a powerful statement about the human condition itself, that no amount of external validation can fill an internal void. That genuine connection is something deeper, something we all crave, and something we all fear losing. The darkness he sings about, it's not just the absence of light, it's the absence of warmth, the absence of presence, the absence of hope, perhaps, if you're truly left to face it all by yourself. It's a very bleak landscape he describes in those lyrics, a landscape of the soul. And when he says it tears him apart, you can almost hear the tremor in his voice. The vulnerability, the raw emotion, it's a moment where the king steps down from his throne and becomes just a man. A man who still carries the anxieties of his youth. A man who understands what it feels like to confront the vast, silent terror of being utterly alone. It makes you think about all the other people in the world who might feel the same way. And all the people who hide their fears behind smiles or brave faces. All the people who go to bed at night and feel that same cold dread creep in. Elvis, in this song, gives voice to that universal experience. He makes it okay to admit that even the strongest among us can be terrified of the dark, and what the dark represents isolation. And that's the real power of music, isn't it? To take these very personal, very internal feelings and make them universal. To let us know we're not alone in our own fears, even the fear of being alone. It's a strange kind of comfort knowing that someone like Elvis, someone so iconic, shared that very basic, very human vulnerability. So, the next time you hear one of his upbeat tunes, remember this other side. The side that looked into the shadows, the side that acknowledged the emptiness, the side that dared to admit a childhood fear so profound, it still tore him apart as an adult. And it makes him more real, more relatable, more human. He might have been the king of rock and roll, but he was also just a person. A person with fears, a person who understood the quiet terror that can come with the absence of another. The profound chill of being left to face the vast, silent expanse of a world without connection. And he sang about it with a heartbreaking honesty that still resonates. The specific fear Elvis admitted to in that surprisingly dark song, the one that tore him apart, was the fear of being alone. The song is called Edge of Reality.